have been taking refuge in boarded-up homes. And also, mandatory evacuations have been issued for places like Chatham County, Georgia. The announcement caused many people to line up at the gas stations. And even NASA is affected by the hurricane. Its 4 shuttles are now in hangars that cannot withstand winds greater than 105 to 125 miles per hour. And now for the very latest information regarding Hurricane Floyd, let's go to Rick.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl. Well, Hurricane Floyd already having an impact from Florida northward into South Carolina. In Florida, Governor Jeb Bush has declared a state of emergency. Coastal and low-lying areas are being evacuated. Shelters are already open and schools have been closed. Several airlines have canceled flights into and out of South Florida, and tolls have been suspended on the Florida Turnpike and other toll roads to aid in the evacuation. And National Guard troops have been deployed. Georgia is looking perhaps at its greatest hurricane threat this century. Mandatory evacuations have been ordered for Chatham County, which includes the city of Savannah. National Guard troops have been deployed. In South Carolina, Governor Jim Hodges has been asking people to leave the coast. Right now, the evacuations are voluntary for the barrier islands, but probably will become mandatory at noon today. And also 2,000 National Guard troops and state police have been deployed to assist in the evacuations. Well, once again, the Bahamas being hit very hard by intense Hurricane Floyd right now. As we look at the satellite picture, you can see the eye of Floyd very close to the island of Eleuthera, where reports have indicated severe damage. No exact details on that, but it's safe to say that Eleuthera is very close to the eye wall of Floyd. And recently, Nassau in the Bahamas has reported a wind gusts over 70 miles per hour. As of 8 o'clock this morning, Floyd is at 25.4 north, 76.2 west, near Eleuthera in the central Bahamas, or 250 miles east-southeast of Palm Beach, Florida. Top sustained winds have come down a little bit, but Floyd is still a massive, incredibly strong hurricane, 150 miles per hour. Floyd's moving west-northwest at 14. We'll talk to Dr. Steve Lyons to see if that turn in direction will continue in just a moment. The pressure 929 millibars. Hurricane warnings remain in effect for a good part of the Bahamas and on the Florida East Coast, actually from Florida City, Florida, up to Brunswick, Georgia, and hurricane watches from Brunswick to Little River Inlet, South Carolina, and tropical storm warnings now in Florida from Florida City south to the 7 Mile Bridge. Well, now let's check with our reporters out in the field, see what the situation is across Florida. We have Jim Cantori in Melbourne and Bill Keneally. He's in West Palm Beach. Bill, let's start with you. Let's talk a little bit about the evacuations there.
All right, Rick, thanks a lot. Again, the evacuations are likely complete now. They were ordered as of 5 p.m. upon the issuance of the hurricane warning, so all the barrier islands and anybody in a trailer park and or in a low-lying area was asked, if not forced, to evacuate. If you were in a hotel, trust me, you had to leave. That's what we had to do. We had to scramble last night to find a hotel over by the airport. But again, Rick, you talked about the latitude of the hurricane, about 25.4. We're about 26.6 north latitude here, so we definitely cannot sound the all clear. And because of the wide breadth of the hurricane, already we're starting to feel some of those tropical storm force winds on the order of 35 and 40 miles per hour out of the north-northeast. We are on the mainland. Behind me is the Intercoastal Waterway. Half a mile across that would be the barrier island itself. And once again, pretty much everything over there is boarded up. As the crow flies, we're probably only about a mile away from the ocean front itself. I want to show you some video shot yesterday. Folks were preparing, and best they should, in the event of an eventual landfall here. And it looks as though we're not going to see the landfall, but because of the wide nature of Hurricane Floyd, we will see a pretty nasty swipe as high as maybe 75, 80 miles per hour on those winds. So heeding that, take advantage of the time this morning to get out there, and a couple of hurricane tips to pass along to you now. Be sure to outline your emergency plan very quickly. In addition, gather supplies, be it food or water or whatever you need, and get some cash. If the power goes out, those ATM machines will be going down, and that applies to, again, filling up the car with gas. If the power is out, those pumps will not pump. And if you get a chance, if possible, refill your prescriptions at the local drugstore if they are in fact open this morning. So, Rick, we're holding our own here, but it is getting windier. Watch for the rain later on today. Let's head now up the coast to Melbourne and say good morning to Jim Cantori. Jim?
Hey, good morning to you, Bill, and everyone. Of course, we are watching the winds slowly pick up here, but it's sunny, it's dry, at least at the moment, and surely if you're making any of those last-minute preparations, this is the time to do it, because we expect by noontime today those tropical storm force winds will be very, very close to the coast and also the Causeway Bridge. And this is important. If you haven't evacuated by noon, you got a problem, because at 45 miles an hour, that's when they close those bridges. They do not let anybody go across the bridges unless it's an absolute emergency. So make sure you have those things done. As you can see behind me here, the winds are definitely beginning to pick up as a result of Floyd. Well, let me show you some pictures of what we've seen a lot of here in the last 24 hours, and that has been the purchasing of plywood. We take you to the local retailer here that's doing all that, and of course you can see the long lines. This is about a 2 to 3 hour wait for plywood yesterday, but the good news is, as quick as it was going out, they were bringing truckloads of plywood in, so there was really never a scarcity of the plywood. It was just basically everyone going at the same time to get the plywood, and you had to wait in line for quite some time to do it. But a lot of people, again, way up into the wee hours of the morning last night, doing all the boarding up and whatnot, and hopefully today those preparations will be complete by noon. Try and do that, because if I were to give you a little bit of a timeline here of what this thing is going to do, yeah, it looks like it's going to go to our east, but we'll be into those tropical storm force winds around noon here in the Brevard County area, the Space Coast. Possibly by midnight tonight, we'll be into some of the hurricane force winds. So it's going to go downhill in a hurry after we go past the noontime hours today. Back to you, Rick.
Jim Cantori in Melbourne, Florida. Well, let's go right to our expert desk with our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons, to get the latest from him. Steve?
Well, thanks, Rick, and we continue to monitor. Let's have the latest look at the infrared satellite imagery here, and I'll show you a couple of features. First of all, notice on the western side of the circulation, there's a little break in the red cloud there. That's a break in the eye wall, and that's a good sign. That means that the system is weakening a little bit, at least temporarily. And we've seen the pressure go up just a little bit. And you've also noticed that it's taking a little more of a northwest track there as compared to where it was earlier this morning, sort of riding along that white line there. And right now it's just about even with Miami and still moving to the north. So Miami, you're looking better as time goes by, but by no means let your guard down yet. It's not over yet. Now keep in mind, as we look at the overall system here, this is the visible satellite imagery here that you saw there. That was the first image, and you saw very dark, but you could clearly see the eye. But you can see here that our tropical storm force wind radii are very large, and our hurricane force wind radii are large as well. And as the system comes to the north, those are both going to clip the coast of Florida, and they'll all be on the east side. Notice on the west side of Florida, we do not anticipate tropical storm force winds on that side. The other thing to keep in mind is the winds are going to be strongest on the north side of the circulation, because those winds are going to be coming straight off the coast, straight off the ocean area to the coast, whereas the winds on the south side will be coming over land. And so the strongest winds will be preceding the hurricane center as it moves north, and we think it's going to be north offshore, although it'll be fairly close to the central Florida coast later tonight and into tomorrow morning, as you can see by our time frame here, and then accelerating to north as we go. And of course, our uncertainty in exactly where the track's going to be, it grows with time. But the Carolinas, you better be preparing, and of course we know you are down there in South Carolina as well. And storm surge is a big problem, and even though it's not going to strike land, this coastline here, the storm surge is a big potential problem as the onshore winds come up here out of the east or northeast. And the Georgia coast, you're going to be particularly vulnerable because the storm surge potential there is so high for you. So be very, very careful in getting out of those low-lying areas early and well in advance of the system. Let's get back to the studio now.
Dr. Steve Lyons, thank you very much. Of course, stay with us for frequent detail.
Powerful